welcome back to the Lowell Area Historical Museum Immersion Online program. The activity that we are going to do this time is called Life of a Museum Artifact. In this activity, we want to look at how museums take care of all of the artifacts that are here in the museum. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was, how do museums get all of the things that are on display at their museums? Well, here at the Lowell Area Historical Museum, all of the artifacts that we have here have been donated by local people who felt that they were things that were important to the history of Lowell. Now, we don't take just anything that's offered to the museum. For it to become a part of the museum, it has to be something that has a relation to the history of Lowell, so it has to help us tell a story about the history of Lowell. It has to be in good condition. It can't be something that's falling apart, because we have to be able to take care of it. And because we don't have a lot of storage, we can't already have 100 of them. So it has to be something that's sort of new for us. Beyond that, as long as it tells a story of Lowell, it is something that can become a part of the collection. Now, museums all have different ways, well, they all have basically similar ways, but different systems for keeping track of all the things that come into the collection. Here at the Lowell Area Historical Museum, we have over 25,000 items in our collection. And that can range from things like photographs, to furniture, to yearbooks, all kinds of different artifacts that tell the story of life here in Lowell and the events that have happened here in the past. So we need a way to be able to keep track of all those things. And the way that museums keep track of artifacts is through a numbering system. So every item that comes into our collection gets a number, and every single item in the collection's number is different. And so that's how we keep track of it. We put all the numbers into the computer. We have different information that we collect, and then that way we know everything that we know about each item in our collection. So what I wanted to talk about with you a little bit today is, how does that numbering system work? What do museums do to record that information, and what information are we interested in? So the first thing we do when we get an item in the collection like this one is we talk to the person who is donating it to the museum. And we find out information about them, because they are what we call a donor. So they're the person that's given us the item for the collection. And then we find out from them anything that they know about the artifact. So we want to know if they know who owned it before them. We want to know if they know what year it was made. We want to know if it was used for anything special. Say it was a dress. Was it worn at any special, a birthday party or a graduation or a wedding? What about that artifact is special? And then we want to know, does it tell any specific stories about Lowell? And we record all that information. Now, our numbering system helps us to keep track of this. So every item in our collection gets a number like this. And the first set of numbers tells us what year it was donated to the museum. So this year is 2020. So all the items that get donated to the museum this year will have that number. And then we'll know exactly when they became a part of the museum. The second set of numbers is called our donor number. And that number tells us that in the year 2020, this was the first person to donate items to us. So everything that came in from that person in that year would get that part of the number. So we could have 100 items that have those two numbers the same. And that would just mean that they all came from the same donor in the same year. This last part, though, is the number that changes the most. This is the item number. So if someone gave 10 things this year, the first thing they gave would have a 1 here. The second thing would have a 2, and then a 3, and then a 4, and then a 5. And that way, we can keep track of everything that came from that donor in that year. When we store items, we store them and record their location with this number. So when you go on our website and look up artifacts at the website that we gave you last time, you'll see these numbers, and that's what the numbers mean. They mean the year that something came in. So you might see something that says 2003.001.0004 or something like that. So you won't see the same number twice, and they'll always be attached to a different artifact. And that enables the museum to be able to locate and search and learn about all the different things in our collection. Now, why is it important for museums to be able to record all that information? Well, part of the job of a museum is to take care of the artifacts in its collection. So it's our job to make sure that they're stored at the right temperature and that they're safely packed. We don't want anything to get broken. We don't want anything to be stored too hot so it melts. Like, have you ever left a candy bar in a car in the summer? It can melt. Well, we do have things in our collection that have to be at certain temperatures to keep them stable. So the museum is in charge of keeping the artifacts in its collection in the best possible manner that we can, so that these artifacts are here for you as students to come and study, for researchers to come and study, but also for people in the future to come and study. Because we want people in 50 years or 100 years to be able to see and have access to all the same materials that we have here today. So that's one part of a museum's job. It's to care for the artifacts. The other part of a museum's job is to share what we can learn from those artifacts with the public. So we do a number of different things, from creating exhibits to having third graders come and use our museum as a classroom, to second grade field trips. Some of you guys might have been here last year taking a tour as second graders. And then we also have college students here. We have people from the general public. People that come and want to learn more about Lowell's history are able to come here and use the different things that we have at the museum to learn about what happened in Lowell's past and also how that impacts us today. So the museum keeps very close track of all of our artifacts so that we can share them with you and share them with the future. So the life of a museum artifact is quite an interesting one. It starts out in someone's family home, and then it comes to the museum, and then it gets assigned a number, and it's able to be used forever going forward by people who want to use it for research and to learn about our history. So that is the life of a museum artifact here at the Lowell Area Historical Museum. Now, typically in a museum immersion program, you would get to help us with this process, and you would get to actually record information about an artifact that's recently come into our collection. Since we're not able to do that with you at home, however, you could take the opportunity to create a record for something in your house. So you could pick something out of your room, something from around your home, maybe a family heirloom. And you could create on a piece of paper a document that records information about that item. So things that you might want to include in your record would be what is the name of the item? Is it a photograph? Is it a bowl? Is it a scrapbook? What is it? Is it a quilt? Is it a toy? What is it? And then tell us what you know about it. Do you know when it was made? Do you know who owned it before you, if it's a family heirloom? What do you know about the people that owned it before you? And then tell us, how was it used? Do you use it in a certain way or at a certain time of year or for certain activities? Tell us where you store it. Where does this artifact live in your house? Is this something that stays in your bedroom? Is this a special tablecloth that you pull out for a holiday that is stored in your kitchen? Where is this artifact stored in your home? And then tell us the date that you're recording all this. So we want to know what it's like on this day, where it's stored as of today. And then tell us what kind of condition it's in. We want to know if your artifact is in good shape. We use a ranking scale here at our museum where we rate things as excellent, good, fair, or poor. So are there holes in it? Is it kind of falling apart? Is there some discoloration? Or is it in just great shape? It's just perfect, everything's wonderful, it looks brand new. So you can rate your artifact in your home. Is it excellent, good, fair, or poor? How good of a shape is it in today? And what that does is it gives people in the future an indication of if your artifact is maintaining the same level going forward. So if you have an artifact that was excellent 10 years ago and you look at it today and it looks terrible, then you know that maybe you need to change its storage conditions. So that kind of gives you something to gauge your artifact by. So tell us as much as you can about your artifact, and then you can share that with your teacher or here with us at the museum. A good email to email that information to us is L as in Lisa, Plank, P-L-A-N-K, at lowellmuseum.org. And any of the activities that you're doing through this museum immersion online, we would love to have you share with us so that we can see how you're doing. And if you have any questions or feedback, we can give that to you as well. So thank you for joining us for the Life of a Museum Artifact activity, and we'll see you for our next activity.